Serapeum Helios. When the ancient Greek temple complex of Serapeum in Alexandria was destroyed by a Christian mob in 391, stories began to spread of an incredible artifact that had occupied the temple. Rather than focusing on the central statue of the Serapis cult, a dazzling colossus adorned with precious stones and metals, rumors instead swirled around a large, otherwise plain image of the Greek sun god Helios. Made entirely of iron, this statue was stunningly said to levitate above the floor of the complex. Tyrannius Rufinus, an early chronicler, described a cleverly crafted iron image of the sun, suspended in the air by a magnet fixed to the ceiling. His account, while fantastical, suggests the possibility of a mechanical trick, such as a hidden chain. This idea aligns with Alexandria's reputation as a hub for inventors like Ctesibius, Philo, and Hero, who were known for using advanced engineering techniques to create supernatural effects for temples like self-opening doors. Statues supposedly suspended by magnetism were not unheard of in the ancient world. The Roman historian Pliny the Elder referred to it as stationary levitation and provided several theories on how he thought this could be achieved with magnets. His earliest mention of a magnetically levitated statue referred to a likeness of the wife of Pharaoh Ptolemy II. Perhaps not coincidentally, this statue was also in Alexandria, an unbelievable feat in an exotic place. The account of the Serapeum Helios evolved over time, with Christian historians Augustine and Quadvoltaeus offering differing descriptions of the levitating statue and a more sinister view of the use of magnetism. They believed it was used to fool people into believing in magic and blasphemous mysticism. In their view, the creators of such statues knew that they were lying about the powers levitating the idols, and they openly tried to deceive others to show the power of their false gods. We may never know how the Serapeum Helios was suspended, or if it existed at all. But to this day, levitating statues are impossible to prove or dismiss, and remind us of the knowledge that the passing millennia have robbed us of. Chaiteo Pagoda. A person making the long journey to the town of Chaiteo in Myanmar will find something that defies all belief in gravity, physics, and common sense. A massive boulder sits precariously perched on the edge of a sheer cliff, looking as if it might topple off at the slightest gust of wind. And on the very top of that boulder sits a golden pagoda built 2,500 years ago. Standing 25 feet high, with a circumference of 50 feet, the Golden Rock, as locals call it, defies all logic. More than half of the base of the boulder seems to sit in the open air, yet it has maintained its position for centuries, if not millennia. The Golden Pagoda on top of the rock stands 24 feet high, and both are popular sites for Buddhist pilgrimages. According to legend, the Buddha, during his travels, gave a strand of his hair to a hermit named Taikta. This hermit later passed the sacred relic to King Tissa, with the condition that it be enshrined in a pagoda on a rock resembling the hermit's head. Employing his mystical powers, King Tissa is said to have levitated the boulder from the sea and transported it to its current location. The construction of the Golden Pagoda, assisted by other celestial beings, followed soon after. The hair was enshrined in the pagoda, and it is said that the presence of the hair is what has kept the great rock from falling for these many centuries. Modern scientific theories suggest geological explanations for the rock's stability, such as natural cementing materials and the center of gravity over the base. Still, the mystery of how the boulder arrived at its incredible perch in the first place remains unsolved. This information will likely remain lost to history, but for those who follow the teachings of the Buddha, the site remains a place of reverence and holiness. Magic Papyrus and Acoustic Levitation. Egypt is home to incredible monuments that even today show the ingenuity of the people who lived thousands of years before us. Archaeologists have found that using pulleys, ramps, and other basic techniques, the engineers and workers of the pharaohs built structures like the Great Pyramids and the Sphinx, testing the limits of human intelligence and ability at a time long before modern technology. However, what if this isn't the case? What if the ancient Egyptians' true method has been lost to history? What if, perhaps, a cutting-edge modern science was mastered in the time of the pharaohs? Living in the Middle East in the 900s, Al-Masudi was a prolific writer and scholar who tried to answer the questions he found in the world around him. Though many of his writings are still celebrated today, One account draws a fair amount of skepticism. In his works, Al-Masudi claims that the pyramids were built using a skill that has since become lost: levitation. In Al-Masudi's description of the construction of the pyramids, he claims that magic papyrus scrolls were placed under the massive stones used to build the monuments. On these scrolls were images of symbols used as conduits for magical sound. A path would be made by creating a fence of metal poles erected all the way to the final resting place of the stone. When everything was ready, a court magician would strike the block with another metal pole, which initiated the levitation process. The vibrations from the poles would then guide the stone, gently falling into its intended spot at the end of the fence. With this magic, Al-Masudi claimed, the ancient Egyptians managed to create such imposing monuments. The most fascinating part of this story is not the claim of floating stones. Scientists have proven that producing enough sound frequency to levitate stone would have been impossible with ancient tools. However, Al-Masudi's knowledge of using sound to levitate objects, a concept known as acoustic levitation, is nearly inexplicable. Modern science has only accomplished this feat in the 21st century, and even then, only after much trial and error. So how did Al-Masudi even know this was possible at all? Was it a lucky guess? Did he crack the secret of acoustic levitation 1100 years before it was rediscovered? We may never know, but Al-Masudi's apparent knowledge of acoustic levitation reminds us that some discoveries may not be discoveries at all, but rather a relearning of skills lost to the inevitable march of time. The Hanging Pillar of Lapakshi. In the small village of Lapakshi in India lies a mystery that seemingly defies the laws of physics, a pillar that floats above the floor. The Virabhadra temple, renowned for its rich history and stunning Vijayanagara architecture, is home to this puzzling structure known as the Hanging Pillar. This architectural wonder, with a base barely hovering over the ground, has intrigued scholars, architects, and visitors for centuries, drawing them into a world where ancient craftsmanship converges with the mystical. Built in the 1500s, the temple consists of a central hall, an antechamber, and the sanctum sanctorum. The statue of Shiva featured in this temple is one of the largest in the world and one of the most protected monuments in India. Some say that the pillar was a show of skill by the builders who constructed the temple. The space between the pillar and the ground is so thin that only paper and cloth can be passed through it. If the hanging pillar was a symbol of architectural prowess, the people who built it were true masters of their craft. Legend, however, says the builders of the pillar were not human at all. Rather, the story goes that the pillar was built by Hindu deities who wished to show their power to the people living near the temple. This divine explanation is claimed to be further supported by the reports of a British engineer, whose name has been lost to history, who attempted to use math and modern construction to explain the pillar. When he couldn't, he allegedly admitted that the origin of the pillar must have been a higher power. Regardless of who built the hanging pillar, its continued rebellion against gravity intrigues tourists to this day, proving to be just as fascinating as the incredible pieces of art and architecture surrounding it. Alhamra hydraulic network. In 1232, Muhammad I of Granada took advantage of the crumbling Moroccan Almohad Caliphate and seized much of what is now southern Spain. To celebrate the founding of his new emirate, Emir Muhammad commissioned the building of a grand palace. This project resulted in the construction of Alhamra, renowned not just for its beauty, but for an engineering marvel, a water system that defies gravity. Alhamra is so large that at its height it was a city within a city, containing several palaces, towers, fortresses, and royal estates. The walls are decorated with stucco and mosaic, and intricate carvings can be found throughout the complex. Fountains and columns made of marble provide further ornamentation, and within these fountains is an impressively advanced water system. Plumbing was not unheard of in the Middle Ages, but it almost always required the use of gravity. At Alhamra, however, the only water source is a river a kilometer away. Located downhill from the complex, the river supplies all of the water for the fountains and gardens. The engineers who added the plumbing in Alhambra defied the laws of nature, using a complex system of canals, dams, water wheels, and reservoirs. The brilliant minds who accomplished this feat used the power of the river itself to push the water uphill, and then distributed it across the complex. To this day, the Alhambra hydraulic network astounds engineers and scientists. The most incredible part of the plumbing is not that it exists, but that the emirs of Granada managed to recruit enough brilliant and innovative minds to accomplish a feat that most of the world would have viewed as impossible. Even today, scientists and engineers study the plumbing found at Alhambra to increase their knowledge of irrigation techniques. Though the engineers of Alhambra would have understood the physics behind the plumbing, the royalty and soldiers who lived in this paradise would have known only one thing. In the beautiful complex of Alhambra, water miraculously flowed uphill. Are you ready to unlock the secrets of the past? Subscribe now to Dark 5's brand new Ancient Mysteries channel, and embark on a journey to uncover the most enigmatic and awe-inspiring mysteries of ancient times. Leave a comment if there are any ancient mysteries you want us to explore in upcoming videos.